Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and I'm the creator and interviewer for this whole series. And I'm so glad you are here. You are in for a treat. The women I have interviewed are amazing. Their stories extraordinary, inspirational, deep, and powerful. You will also get to go through different guided processes, experiences, and tap into what's true and coming forward for you. So you can look forward to all of that and all the interviews you're going to see on this page. And I want you to be able to get started right away. So I went in to my year-long program and I pulled out a video for you of what I taught about 2 weeks ago that was very powerful. Some things came through to me that are extremely expansive on this theme of expanding into a new story. So I have pulled that video for you and you'll see it right after this introduction. There's about 30 minutes of teachings, storytelling, showing you how to take what comes to you and moves you and shape it and share it to move others. And then I'm going to lead you through a deep dive guided process on how do you leave your old story and expand into your new story. So go ahead and click, and I don't think you have to click anything, just stay with me. And following this introduction, you will get to go on a deep dive journey for you to be able to tap into your soul calling and to your purpose so that you can move forward and come out of hiding and dare to be seen for who you really are. So the thinking and inside of InStory is much more about what's true, like what works for you and what's your stretch that feels expansive, not like another weight is on your head for somebody else's purpose, right? Think how often we've taken a weight on our head for somebody else's purpose only and not any of it for our own. So part of being an InStory is saying, I get to expand into my purpose and what is meaningful to me. So I just want to commend each of you that wherever you are is where you are. Right? Like Diane's sort of juggling like all this new stuff, right? That's coming to you. And when do you want to shape it now or for the next time? We're not trapped in there's only this moment. For me, the nudge comes from, are you honoring your whole self and your whole life, or are you hiding? When I feel someone's hiding, I'm like, no, you're gonna, like one woman said, I'm too scared to be on the show. This was a while back. This is a woman named Isabel. I'm too scared because I don't want to talk about this book I just wrote. I'm like, that's not your choice. You wrote your book. You have to be able to talk about it. And I made her do it. And like when she started to cry, talk about it, I just talked until she pulled herself together, but she did it because she was hiding. And we're really not here to hide. But sometimes saying no is not hiding. It's standing in your power for expansion. So Nina, your work is going to be to do your deep work, but not feel you have to perfect it. So, because we're working on disconnecting the overly precise perfectionist in you, which gets activated as soon as you have to produce a thing that goes out into the public, right? So it's partly knowing what's your stretch, right? So, like for you, Nina, you said yes to a stretch by staying in InStory with the long view, rather than forcing yourself into such a pressure cooker that you get sick or whatever. Right? Like we have to stop doing that to ourselves too. So all of that is to say, I really want to honor each of you for where you are, because part of being an InStory is saying yes to something that is not just the outer world's expectation of you, right? Like it's very, very easy to still feel that, or to feel the litany of the not enoughs, like pick a subject, like seriously, so just take to heart a strengthening of your spirit for your choice that you're making now and how valuable and powerful and awesome that is. And always choosing the expanded part. Just if you're not being a speaker, still choose expansion. What are you going to expand into that just lights you up? So I've been talking a lot about this expand into a new story and this expanding into this feeling that is like this other way of knowing. I've been talking about that. Like, how do you trust your knowing, which isn't what you read in a book or what an expert told you or what you've always been told? It's like, trusting those things that just come to you in your dreams out of the blue while you're walking in these weird ways, but you know it, or this sense that you're meant to do this thing that's just not what everybody else is saying or doing. And I tend to call it trusting this knowing. Well, I have followed a coach. His name is Jesse Elder. I learned with him a little bit years and years ago online, and he's is an unusual thinker, very philosophical, and he comes up with very interesting ways to say things. And so periodically I'll listen to him as he likes to talk while he's driving along. Like he likes to go on and on about what he likes to go on and on about too. He said something that I loved so much, and he used completely different languaging for it, but it reflects what I believe we're working on here. He said, he said it kind of like this. So I made a little teeny video on it because I just thought it was so great on my Facebook page. But he said, we all love certainty. We all love that feeling about being certain about something. And he said, but I want to talk to you about a different kind of certainty. And he called it irrational certainty. And it reflects exactly what I say when I say I want you to trust that knowing the things that come to you, because those things that come to you are not the certainty that someone else did it before. It follows plan A, B, and C. It's exactly the precise way to solve the exact problem that has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 method. That it's not that. And how do almost all new things get created? Somebody had to have a passion for something that seemed completely irrational to everyone else. And he started talking about this irrational certainty, which was the way that people are passionate about things that don't make sense yet. And they just don't make sense yet. But you just like me being passionate about InStory. Nobody thought I should call my business InStory. What the heck is that, Devorah? Nobody knows what that is. I said, I know, but that's what it is. And so, like, how do I'm always all the time trying to put all these things out that go in the world, and I love that it's like irrational certain. Like, I know this is true, even though it's not following the rules. So he said, so I'm thinking, how when you really believe something and then you listen to somebody else from out of the blue, completely different, say the exact same thing in completely different words. I was like, yeah, okay, what we're doing is right. It's like, and then it got even better. So then he says, what are the two elements that you need to really have what he calls irrational certainty, which I call this deep inner knowing? And he's the image of an giant oak tree and its roots. And I'm like, oh, I like that. And then he says, the two things he says, the first one is vitality. I was like so curious what he was going to say, and I was surprised by what he said. He said, vitality, you have to have energy. And he's like, okay, so maybe that involves how you physically take care of yourself in some ways so that you have energy, you have strength, you have vitality, of like that's like this expansion, right? You can't be all libbity, 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 and libbity, libbity. I can't say anything to anyone. Well, like that doesn't work. It's not interesting or connecting. I was like, okay, I'm behind that. I'm down with that vitality. I'm good. I'm energetic. I like that. And then the other one was purpose. I'm like, yes, because I feel like so much of what we talk about here is what's I call it your soul calling. I don't use his exact words, but it is what we're all here for, is to find what is that calling of your soul that is elevating to that when you tap into that soul calling, that what we call our soul story, it gives you energy. That's where you get your vitality, right? That's what lights you up. I was like, oh, yes. So I don't generally, I've never ever heard the term, which is one of his geniuses, is the things he makes up. But irrational certainty is what I'm always trying to tell you guys to have. Trust the first thing you get. That's not rational.
That's outside your rational mind. You're trusting the first thing you get from this other domain, and then you're understanding what it means, and then you're trusting the truth of it. You know, I'm always saying what you get in this work, it's always true. That's completely irrational certainty. I just never would have thought of calling it that. So I want to strengthen this in us that we are on a track that, it's when you start to hear the same thing taught in different ways, you know you're on the right track. So we're on the right track of something. And then the other thing that I really liked that I thought about this powerful work that we do with expanding into a new story and your soul story calling and all of these things is I follow another coach. His name is Peter Sage, and he's a brilliant coach, but he's also one of these like just weirdly over the top extreme athletes, which I'm like, I cannot really relate to that, but I find it interesting. Anyway, so he sent out an email promoting a summit called Ageless with all of these doctors and healers and all kinds helping you beat all of these things that bother us when you're too tired or you're sick or people are getting dementia or high blood sugar or chronic this or chronic that or da, 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 da. And you're like, oh my gosh, I need to know about that. Right. And so I was thinking that, trying to think about like when you put something out in the world, you want people to have a sense that it's solving a real problem that they have and that they need it. But I was thinking, what difference does it make how long you live if you don't love the life you're living? Uh, uh, and I use, when I'm walking, I use ChatGPT to just all the things I'm thinking. I was out walking and then I tell it to just organize it up. And it makes a headline that says, what good does it do to live to 100 if you don't love your life? Or something like that. It's like, that's our side of things. Like, yes, it's important to learn whatever physical healing things, and those are significant. And at the same time, this soul work that we do has its own really deep healing quality, and it also helps us create a meaningful life. And when your life doesn't feel meaningful and fulfilling and filled with joy and love and blessing and making a difference, your body might be doing fine, but you're not going to feel good. So it made me very happy because I was like, how do we stand up in these softer areas that are so important, right? And then in our leadership conversation, I don't run InStory. I run InStory exactly the way I teach you, which is I don't create a curriculum and follow it every year exactly the same. On Mondays, my leadership, ever so often we have a plan that goes over a few weeks. It's on a theme that continues. But a lot of times we get together on Mondays and we discuss what's coming up for us, what we're seeing. Somebody has an idea, and we decide to do that on Thursday. It's just kind of my style. It doesn't mean everyone should function like that, but that's it's not always how we plan, but a lot of times that's what happens. And so the first thing that Paula was talking about this week was, if you don't mind my saying, about how you're reading poetry, right? So she described like how some of the elderly, really extraordinary neighbors that they have in community she has that have passed away or are in the process of being near to dying, that she has found poetry, both of her own writing and others, and has read that poetry to them as they're in that state where they can't necessarily talk. And Paula, when you said, and hold their hand while you read it to them, I was like, Paula, this is a thing. Like sometimes someone says something to me that they're doing that's just natural. Like this is just who you are, Paula. And it's just like, it's just who she is. And we don't think about these things that are just who we are. We just don't think about it. It's just who we are. So we don't think about it. But sometimes you can shape something that has become part of your life organically into something that you can teach others. And I was like, I think next summit, Paula, this one, that would be a thing to talk about is And then that also led to the kind of what we call, like what Paula calls poetic language, or what do you call it? The way you call the language, um, not regular language, but
The language of your soul,
right.
um,
Or soul,
po
or
po poetic expressions, soul dollar expressions,
yeah. So this whole way
soul
that Paul
dollar.
talks about language that is not regular didactic language, it's poetic language, and there's a place for it. And when someone's leaving this world, they're in this other, they're in a more expanded state of consciousness. So this poetic language, it like Paul's awareness of this poetic language in relationship to that state of consciousness, it's so beautiful. And it just makes sense. So that was that. And then Diane says, my word of late is ineffable. Like, what? And like things that are so hard to say. So we just love that, like not didactic language, like that more right brain. You know that woman who did her TED talk on my stroke of genius, where she suddenly couldn't use her left hemisphere, she could only use her right hemisphere of her brain. It's a super interesting TED talk. And our culture pushes us towards that left hemisphere, the articulating and naming and structuring of all things. And part of what's happening is we're endeavoring to expand more into this right brain consciousness, which is more that irrational certainty. You know it, but this is where ineffable comes in. But then you bump into the how the heck do I put this into words? Right. And then, of course, we put it into music, and that's Diane, someone like them puts it also into art, into images. And, and I think often about the mystical, how so often that teachers of the mystical traditions the reason they have to use parables and images and metaphors is because there's no other way. They're endeavoring to take something that's not in the physical realm and give you a comprehension of it in the realm in which we exist, which is physical. And if you could maybe paint it for someone and get them to understand it, or play it in music. There are a range of modalities, but speaking is a very significant modality for humans, and even for God. Like in the Bible, it says God said, "Let there be light." God didn't just make it be light. God said, let there be light. And then later you have God breathed the breath of life into the human. So there's also this breath. But um, we've all run into that. Haven't you run into that where you go through something in one of the guided processes and it kind of blows you away and then you can't figure out how to tell us about it? Like, I had that when I was trying to tell you what happened to me when I did the expand into a new story, and I was in my old story and it was like a structure, a building, I was kind of in it, and then it disappeared and it was a little hard for me to say what I was, because I wasn't a thing. I was like light or expanse, so I ran out of words to be able, I felt it, like the physical disappeared, and I felt that my energetic self, my expanded self, inhabited space, kind of, and that I could have the sense that I expanded so that I contained my story instead of my story containing me. So that's kind of how to talk about it. But I bumped into that feeling of not having words. And so when we use this guided process and we connect to images and metaphors, they really, really help us to describe new states, to describe and to receive information. It is, in a way, the language of the other realm, the language of the unconscious, the soul. These other realms, they often don't speak in didactic language to us. We don't hear it that way mostly. So in order to hear and receive these kind of messages, there's lots of techniques for this. The way we do it in InStory is not the only one. It just is one. But it gives you, in a very simple way, access to what people like Diane, for years have gotten and tracked in dreams, sleeping dreams that you wake up from, that are all the time. It's called symbolic language, right? So I want you to bring this to the front of your consciousness. so that you can um, feel the value of the ineffable, so to speak. and and the value of the endeavor to put it into form, right? Because we have to put things ultimately into form if we're going to help the next person with it. You don't need it if you're sitting and meditating and you're having a whole experience. You don't need to necessarily put that into form. You can just receive it in the moment and feel healed and transformed, and you don't need to shape it. But as soon as you want to transmit that experience to someone else to help them, you need to make a cup to bring the water from the river to another person. You could build a cup, you could build a whole irrigation system, you can build a jug, you can build a bowl. Like, there's not only one form to transmit that flow from what you receive to someone else. But if you could just receive the flow, like drinking straight from the river, and we should. That's what people will call meditation, or just, like, that fills us up and nourishes us. And then what happens? You want to share it, right? If something fills you up, lights you up, moves you, heals you, helps you, we are here because then you want to figure out, how do I use this to help somebody else? That's when you need to make a container of some sort. You can't really, there's just no other way. Like, I can have this super cool, woo, wow, that was amazing. That's fine. And sometimes that's just for you so that you are better. You just are healed. But then you have that moment where you go, okay, how do I help my child with this? How do I help my team, my clients, my friends? How do I use this to make the world a better place? So that's why InStory has what I call shift, shape, and share. So the shift is when you get that stuff just for you, shifts you out of where you're hurt, where you're stuck, where you're struggling, where you're scared. You get stronger, clearer, healthier. And then you get the call to shape it. Right. So that, Nina, you're exactly in that middle place where stuff is coming to you and it's filling you up and it's healing you, but it doesn't have it doesn't have clarity of shape to help the next person yet. And if you push on it too hard to build the shape too fast, the shape falls apart. And it's not perfectionism, it's authenticity. But it doesn't always work to create it under pressure. Sometimes does. Pressure sometimes makes things really strong and clear and good. Not always, though. So that discernment is important. So I just want you to take all of this in and let it rumble around and notice, what are you drawn to? Like, what are you drawn to listen to? What are you drawn to see? What are you drawn to make? Like, one of the other things that this man, Jesse Elder, said about when you have this irrational certainty. So it's irrational only because it's not what's traditionally been taught in our school system. It's just a different kind of truth. But it's certainty that just lights you up. You know it. You know that feeling where you're like, I know this is true. You just know it. And no one's going to talk you out of it. Because it's just true. It's not a thing you have to prove. It's not a thing. It's just that's, I think, what he was trying to talk about. And I had that feeling. And one other, I'll share one other thing that I think is helpful about this, and then we'll go in and we're going to go do a whole process to experience it. So I want to say one other thing. When you listen to me go on about all these things, notice the different styles of things that I tell you. Like, there are different kinds of stories and experiences that you can share, but I'm only sharing things that moved me. Like, when I told you the thing from Jesse Elder, I didn't say, oh, I heard something interesting. Oh my God, that just like blew me away. Like, it made me have an energetic shift that was like, wow. So that's something I heard from someone else. But I also share with you sometimes the inner processes I do that affect me. So, and I do that a lot of times when I'm walking, and I'll notice what's bothering me. I've taught you pause, notice, and shift, or you can say pause, notice, and choose. So that's when you're feeling off and nothing bad is actually happening to you. You know, those like worry moments or beat yourself up moments, and nothing's, it's like a kind of projecting into the future problem moment. It's really easy to go like, will this thing I do work? Will people like what I do? Will people hire me? It's like that future worry projection. So when I'm launching a summit, it almost always triggers that in me. Oh my gosh, are enough people going to sign up? Will it really work? Will people like? Can't help it. It doesn't bother me as much as it once used to, but I still get it. Right. So I remember that when I first started like this whole thing of being a coach online and trying to enroll clients who had to pay me money to work with me. And just the whole process of that is really different. I was a salaried person, I mean, I had some other things that weren't salary for my storytelling, but um, and I had to work on it myself. And then I was a coach for a little while in my coach's program. And I started to teach something I did. Because when I was first starting, I didn't feel like I wasn't good at what I do. This is a really important thing to notice. Like, I know that I'm a good storyteller. I know I'm a good teacher. I know my process works. I wasn't doubting whether I was actually good at what I do. But I was completely doubting whether I could learn the system of hosting telesummits and enrolling clients and making webinars. And I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I felt like such an idiot in the start. And I would get these women who came after me in Shanda's program going through the same thing. And what I figured out for myself and what I told them is I said, people, we have 2 rooms. We don't have to live in just one room. So this room, I'm a genius. I'm brilliant. I'm creative. I'm unique. I've got my gifts. I'm really great. Over here, I'm completely clueless and freaked out and worried, and I don't know anything. And I'm like, feel like a complete idiot. And who am I to even do this? Okay, these are 2 separate rooms. This is what I did. I said, sometimes you have to leave the learning room where, when you learn something new, you feel kind of like an idiot. Like that's just part of learning something new. But that doesn't mean all your genius just turned to stupidness. You didn't just turn stupid in all your genius. You're still just a genius. Just because you don't know how to market it online doesn't mean you're not a genius therapist or teacher or coach or healer or whatever you are. So I had to do this myself. I had to literally like have these 2 separate rooms. This is the room of like of scarcity, doubt, fear, not good enough. Who the heck am I? And this was the room of I'm a genius at what I do. I'm really good at what I do. So I had to leave this room of doubt and fear and worry, and I had to go over to this room of clarity and inflow. And so, and I taught that for a long time. But the other day, it came up again because I'm launching my summit, right? Oh my God, am I doing it right? Is it good? Just so you shouldn't feel bad that these things come back, they do. And so but I work on it now. It doesn't take me down in the same way. I kind of go, oh, I see you. And so I did a kind of a work on it, and um, I went to feel into that fear, scarcity, worry, doubt room. And I was like, okay, I see this room. And, we did the parts work. I was like, well, what is this room? Like, is there a part in this room? And I was like, oh, yes, I'm here. I'm here. You need this room because you won't get anything done if you don't have this room. I'm like, what? I'm here to make sure you get things done. You have to worry so you get things done. Like, oh. And it's like here there's like this word and like there's not enough. This is the room of not enough, right? This is the room of not enough, but you feel under pressure, right? So it's like, can we do something like I'm gonna dissolve this room. I don't want to have this room anymore. I'm gonna dissolve it. And the part's like, well, what do you want me to do? I said, well, do you want a new job? Well, what's my new job? And so it said, I'm going to be an angel. I'm like, okay, fine. But I need to have a name if I'm going to be an angel, a part of your team. And so it said, my name is Yes. Your name is Yes? Yeah, Yes. I'm going to just be, yes, I can. I'm going to be, yes. Okay. So I imagine I'm dissolving this room and that that I'm expand and then remember I expanded into no rooms at all in the other exercise. So it's like, okay, I'm expanding into this no room at all and this higher guidance and this new little part that now thinks it's an angel saying yes. So it goes yes. And in Hebrew, there's an expression called yesh. And when you say I have something, you say yesh li, it is to me. Yesh in kind of means existence. It exists. So it exists to me. So the word, and when little kids are excited about something, when something goes right, they'll go, yesh, like, yeah, they'll say yesh. And way back in the creation of the world, there's an expression in Hebrew called yesh mi'ayin. So yesh is it exists, ayin is no existence. And there's an idea that only God can create yesh mi'ayin, can create something from nothing. This is like a mystical concept that only God can create something from nothing. We can create one thing from another thing, but that's the idea. So I know all this and I lived in here, but I know this feeling of so it was like, yes, yesh, like it exists, I exist, it exists. And I went, but the other room is like I'm like nothing, right? The other room was nothing works, I can't do it. It was like this nothing room. And I said, I just created yesh me ayin. And it was this feeling of how we as humans are this mini of the creator, that we, in a sense, create something out of nothing. I'm not sure I can explain it more than that, but it was a moment for me where I was like, I'm not trapped by my fears, my doubts, my worries. There is this other expanded energetic state that has to do with creating something out of nothing. So it's not as profound as God. Like we can speak things into existence, but not on the level God does it. But we are created in the image of God, right? So we have these abilities to create. So, in a way, when we go into spiritual imagination, in a way, compared to the physical world, that's quote unquote nothing, right? It's not a thing. It's energetic, but it's not a thing, right? So, if you go into that realm and then you write a book, you have created something out of nothing in a way, right? Like, do you see what I mean? So, I the reason I'm saying all this for you is both for you to kind of feel this like energetic shift, but also for you to talk about what comes to you. Because what am I talking? So this one, I talked about what Jesse Elder talked about. I talked about a summit that I saw called Ageless, right? And I talked about a guided process I did. But do you see what I am doing? I'm taking things that really catch my attention, that move me, some that show up randomly in my life, and some are work I intentionally do in an area that feels constricted or stuck or tight to me. So this worry, like I have a little D part of me and it always says to me there's no such thing as worry, because honestly there is no such thing as worry. The thing I'm worrying about hasn't occurred. It doesn't exist. The problem I'm worrying about literally doesn't exist because I don't know the future. Worry and fear, now all of those things exist either in the past or the future. When you get really present in the present moment, you don't feel worry. It's just a thing. All right, so kind of close your eyes. And just begin to notice your breaths coming in and out. And really allow yourself to feel that shift to stillness. And feel a sense of breathing bigger than your physical self. And just before, and no, we'll keep going. And allow your awareness to shift to that flow from above and feel your connection to God, to Source, the universe, and feel that pure light coming down to the top of your head, filling your whole body, your whole being with light, love, healing, blessing, guidance, clarity, down through your feet into the earth, grounding you in the earth. And breathe up that solid, rooted, comforting energy of the earth into the center of your being. And be aware of being in that state of connected flow. And we're going to take just an extra moment or two in this place of connected flow. And again, feel that sense of breathing bigger than your physical self. That's partly this expansion, that you are not limited to your physical self, that you can breathe yourself bigger and feel that you are in a flow from source, from the higher realms, and from the earth. So allow yourself to just sit in silence just for a few moments and feel that soul nourishing expansion. And allow this expansion to stay with you as you move into the think about it step, because I believe it's a powerful experience to tap into thinking from expansion. And so in this think about it step, we always start with a little bit of gratitude. So just taking in the blessings of your life. What are you grateful for? Feel that you are blessed. This is the week in our portion where they have the story of Abraham, and God says, you are a blessing. You are blessed and you are a blessing. And now also in the think about it step, I'd like you to endeavor to think about something ineffable that's hard to put into words. I know it's a contradiction in terms, but I want you to, first, we're going to go into image and metaphor and experience, but I want you to just endeavor to think about the ineffable. What are your expanded thoughts about the, the ineffable realm, whatever that seems to be to you? See what happens when you endeavor to think about something that seems ineffable, hard to put into words. Just notice what happens. What do you just notice that. It's not a common thing to be asked. And now in the ask and trust step, we sometimes talk about entering into the realm of spiritual imagination. So this time, what I want you to imagine is that you're simply entering into the realm of the ineffable, an expanded consciousness realm in which you're going to ask for an image or a metaphor so you can bring something from the ineffable realm back into the physical realm of speech and connection. So I want you to imagine you're expanding into the realm of spiritual imagination, but in a sense, into the realm of the ineffable. We're not necessarily going to go to a beautiful place or anything like that. I want you to simply feel that you are expanded into the the elevated mystical non-physical realms of consciousness, existence, however it seems to feel to you. It might be just a feeling. And then you're going to ask, what's an image or a metaphor that's just right for me, that's an expression of something ineffable I know or believe or feel? And just trust whatever comes to you. It might come to you in a completely different way that I'm saying it, which is fine. You can also ask your question in a different way if you're led somewhere different. See what happens when you ask, what is an image or a metaphor for something that I know to be true, or that I believe, or that's just right for me, that has connection to the ineffable, to the higher, more mystical, expansive realms. And then you can always ask a different question. Like if you have another question, you can always ask, like when it's explain, interpret, when you're trying to get a feeling of what does this mean? This is where we try to get the ineffable into the expressible. So you can always ask another question if you have, about what else am I supposed to know or feel or see or understand. And allow yourself to also simply expand into an experience. Maybe you're going to expand into a perceptual, experiential realm of feeling of some sort. So I'm going to just be quiet for a few moments just to let you experience for a moment or two. So begin to wrap up. Notice if there's anything else to see or feel or understand. And then just begin to bring yourself back into this moment. When you're ready, wiggle your fingers, stretch your arms, open your eyes, and just take a moment and write down one something. Just write down a little something just to keep something, what was your image or metaphor that might not be so exactly Exactly.
Oh,
So I want to encourage you guys to write something this week. Write something, paint something, draw something, do express the ineffable in some impossible way of whatever version you want. If you need help with something, ask us for help. Best thing ever. So connect, reach out, connect with anybody that you want. If you just thought someone's thing they went through was really good and you want to help them, say, I want to help you. If you think they're too shy to ask for help. So be brave, be connected, trust what you get, and go with it. Okay. All right. Mwah. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Mwah.
welcome back. I hope that that opened up something powerful, moving, and inspiring for you. After you do a guided process, I encourage you to sit down and write out what you got and to take it to heart. What does it seem to mean to you? What is it saying to you? What's opening up for you? And then take a next step. You'll have an invitation to a soul story course with me. That's my free introductory call that you all get as part of this summit to see what's next. Share in the Facebook group, share with somebody else you know. See if you can take a step, kind of that out of hiding step, to share what you got and see where it's leading you. We're here to help each of you to say yes to your soul and to tell your story so that you can shine your light and be seen for who you really are. So thank you for joining the InStory show. I hope you will find that your soul is nourished, your spirit is uplifted, and that you feel brave and clear and worthy of shining your light and telling your story. And as I always say in farewell, remember to go out in the world and share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, folks.